I whispered, "She's beautiful. I wonder if she'd marry me." But the alien girl heard every word. Luke Carter walked down the narrow maintenance corridor of the station, his boots making soft thuds on the metal floor. The station floated in quiet orbit above a small blue planet, mostly empty except for the humans and a few alien species who worked together here. Luke had been on the station for 6 months, and every day he found new things to repair, new machines to check, and new systems to learn. But today, something in the air felt different. The station was full of noise and movement because of the cultural exchange event. Aliens from nearby colonies had come to observe humans, to study their behaviors, and to see how they worked in a mixed crew. Luke didn't care much about the politics. He cared about the small details, how systems ran, if the air circulation was smooth, and if the lights were correctly adjusted. As he passed the observation deck, he noticed her. She stood alone near the edge of the room, looking out at the planet below. The light from the planet touched her skin and hair in a soft glow. Luke had never seen anyone like her. She was an alien, yes, but there was something gentle in her posture, something calm that seemed almost human. Her eyes were large and dark, reflecting the blue of the planet. Her skin had a faint shimmer, and her hair moved slightly, as if a soft wind blew around her even though the room was sealed. Other aliens were talking, laughing, and some were pointing at her in mockery. They whispered words that Luke could not understand, but the tone made him feel uncomfortable. They seemed cruel without needing to raise their voices. He slowed his pace and walked a few steps closer. He noticed the way she held herself, quiet and still, not reacting to the laughter around her. She did not try to hide or change herself, even though she must have known the eyes and voices of others were against her. There was courage in her silence. Luke felt an odd pull in his chest, a mix of admiration and curiosity. "She's beautiful," he whispered under his breath, almost to himself. "I wonder if she'd marry me." He barely realized he had spoken aloud. The words were meant only for the air, not for anyone else. He expected no response, not even acknowledgement. He just felt the need to speak the thought that had formed in his mind. He did not know that her species was different in a way humans could not understand at first. They had a unique sense. They could perceive not just sounds but also the feelings behind them. His words, his soft voice carrying genuine admiration and a hint of nervous hope, reached her fully. She heard every word, every tiny feeling that accompanied it. Her heart, if she could call it that, skipped in a way that was new to her. She had never felt this type of warmth before. It was strange and confusing. She wanted to look away, to pretend she had not heard because her people taught that emotions should be hidden, that admiration and desire were dangerous. But she could not look away. She wanted to see him, to understand who this human was who had spoken such words so openly, without any thought of power, status, or ridicule. Luke noticed her glance. For a moment their eyes met, and the world seemed to slow. The noise of the room, the laughter of the other aliens, and even the hum of the station's engines faded into a quiet that surrounded just the two of them. He gave her a small, awkward smile and continued walking. He did not know what he had started. He did not know that a single whisper could touch a life in ways he could not imagine. The cultural event continued around them, with demonstrations of alien technology, food, and art. Many humans were present, speaking nervously, showing alien guests how their machines worked. Aliens moved with grace, showing superiority in ways humans could not fully match. Some laughed at human clumsiness, but Luke tried not to notice. His eyes kept drifting back to the girl. He wanted to know her name, where she came from, and why she seemed so untouched by the cruelty of her peers. He felt protective, even though he barely knew her. She, meanwhile, retreated to a quieter corner. She did not approach him, not yet. Her mind was filled with a storm of thoughts she did not fully understand. The words he had spoken echoed in her mind. The sound was soft, but the meaning was strong. He had admired her, not for her abilities, not for her status, not for what she could do for him or his people, but for who she was. It was an idea so foreign to her that she could barely hold on to it. As the day turned into night on the station, Luke finished his maintenance rounds. He checked systems, replaced a few broken panels, and made sure the life support systems were stable. His mind, however, was elsewhere. He wondered if she understood humans, if she had even noticed his whisper. He wondered if it mattered. He shook his head, trying to focus. Duty first, he told himself. Curiosity second. But the thought of her eyes stayed with him, bright and dark, calm and intense. Later, when the station's lights dimmed for the evening cycle, Luke returned to the observation deck. The other aliens had gone, leaving the area quiet. He found her again, sitting on a small bench near the window, staring at the planet. He approached slowly, not wanting to startle her. She did not move, but her gaze followed him. He stopped a few steps away, uncertain. "I didn't mean to speak too loudly," he said softly. I thought you should know." She tilted her head slightly, her large eyes studying him carefully. She had never heard anything like his voice, the human way it carried feelings so openly. She felt a warmth she did not know how to name. She did not speak, because speaking felt like it might ruin the moment, might make it real too soon. But she did not look away. She wanted to listen, to understand, to feel this human presence more. They sat together in silence for a long time. Luke did not touch her, did not move closer than necessary. He was careful, respectful. Every instinct he had told him this was important. She, in turn, let herself observe him. His slight movements, the way he adjusted his sleeves, the soft furrow of his brow when he was thinking. She realized she had never studied anyone like this, not in her life. Humans were strange, messy, emotional, and unpredictable. But somehow, in this quiet corner, surrounded by machines and soft lights, she felt that she could trust him. Days passed, and Luke continued to notice her whenever he could. Small gestures became their unspoken conversation. He held doors, offered water when it was difficult to find, and made sure she had space during crowded events. She responded with small nods and gentle smiles, her way of acknowledging his kindness. The other aliens continued to mock her softly, whispering about her fascination with a human, but she ignored them. For the first time, she realized that what she felt was more important than what others thought. One afternoon, Luke was repairing a damaged panel near the observation deck when she appeared silently beside him. "I brought you something," she said softly. It was the first time she spoke to him. Her voice was musical, smooth, and calm. It carried a weight of trust he did not yet understand. He looked up, surprised, and saw that she held a small crystal shard, glowing faintly in the dim light. It was a gift from her home world, rare and precious. He accepted it with careful hands, amazed that she would trust him with such a thing. "Thank you," he said, looking into her eyes. I don't know what to say, it's beautiful." "It is," she replied. "And you are different from the others. Your words, they mattered." Luke's chest tightened. He did not know how to respond. He only knew that this moment, this first connection, felt important. It was more than admiration or curiosity. It was the beginning of something neither of them fully understood, but both could feel it. As the station moved in orbit above the planet, the two of them sat quietly together, speaking little, understanding much. The mockery of the aliens faded into the background. It did not matter what they thought, not yet. What mattered was the trust, the quiet acknowledgement of each other's presence. Luke thought again of his whispered words, now strengthened by her response. He felt hope, cautious but real. And she thought of his voice, his kindness, and the courage it took to speak honestly in a place where honesty was often mocked. For the first time, both of them understood something neither had expected. A single whisper, a simple thought spoken aloud, could change the course of a life. And maybe, in time, it could change more than just one life. After that first quiet meeting, Leora found herself thinking about Luke more often than she wanted to admit. She could not stop hearing the sound of his voice, soft and calm, even though she had only heard it a few times. The memory of his whisper that day, the words he had spoken, stayed in her mind like a gentle pulse. In her species, feeling like this was unusual and often considered dangerous. They valued control, reason, and calculated decisions. Emotion was seen as weakness, but she could not deny what she felt, and it confused her. She began to watch him from a distance during the next days. She hid behind corners, observed quietly from the observation deck, and sometimes lingered near the maintenance areas without being noticed. She noticed how he moved with careful attention, always checking systems, fixing small problems, and yet finding time to notice small details that others might ignore. He spoke politely to everyone, human or alien, and treated each person with respect. Leora realized that humans were very different from her own people. They acted not because of rules or orders, but because they chose to. Their actions carried meaning, not just function. One morning, she saw him helping a young alien technician who had dropped a tool. The technician looked frustrated and embarrassed. Luke crouched down, smiled, and handed the tool back. He said something that made the young alien smile in return. Leora watched, surprised by the simple kindness. She had never seen an alien act that way. Most of her people would scold someone who made a mistake or laugh at their failure. Luke's actions were quiet, gentle, and unassuming. They carried no pride, no need for recognition. Leora felt something warm in her chest as she observed him. She tried to understand him. She read reports about human behavior, watched recorded videos of humans on other stations, and even asked subtle questions to other aliens who had interacted with humans. She learned that humans formed bonds based on respect, trust, and choice. They could admire someone for who they were, not for their rank or appearance. This idea fascinated her. It went against everything she had been taught. Her society believed that pairing and partnerships were strategic, chosen for benefit, not emotion. Love, as humans experienced it, was considered reckless. Yet, watching Luke, she wondered if emotion could actually be strength, not weakness. Luke continued his daily routines, unaware of how much attention Leora paid him. He spoke with his fellow humans, repaired machines, and performed his duties without fail. But he also had moments when he looked out at the planet or at the quiet corners of the station, where he seemed to sense someone watching. Sometimes he would glance toward her empty space and feel a presence he could not explain. He did not know it was Leora observing him, but he felt a strange comfort from it, like an invisible support that encouraged him to keep going. The other aliens continued to mock her in small ways. Whispers and quiet laughter followed her whenever she interacted with humans. They questioned her fascination, called her foolish, and suggested that humans would never care for someone like her. She tried to ignore them, but the words still stung. Her people valued appearances, control, and logic. Showing interest in a human, especially in a gentle human like Luke, could be seen as dangerous. Still, she could not stop thinking about him. She realized that she was learning something her society never taught, that feelings could be honest, that admiration could be pure, and that caring for someone else could make you stronger, not weaker. One evening, Luke returned to the observation deck after finishing a long round of repairs. The lights were dim, and the station hummed quietly. Leora watched him from her corner, her heart beating faster than usual. She noticed the way he moved, relaxed but careful, and the way his eyes scanned the room with curiosity and attentiveness. She thought about his whisper again, how he had spoken without fear, without thinking of how it would be perceived. He had spoken honestly, and that honesty had reached her. She felt a strange longing to speak to him, to let him know that she had heard, that she understood, and that she felt something too. But she held back. Tradition, caution, and fear of judgment restrained her. As days passed, their silent interaction became a routine. She observed he worked, and occasionally their eyes met across the room. These small moments carried meaning that no words could capture. She began to notice small things about him: how he smiled at others, how he paused to listen, how he treated equipment and people with equal care. Each observation deepened her understanding of humans and of him. She realized that humans did not act only for duty or advantage. They acted because they cared. This concept was foreign, but she found it powerful. One afternoon, she approached the maintenance area while Luke was working on a complex system. She did not speak immediately. She just stood quietly, watching him adjust wires and check readings. He looked up and noticed her presence, giving a small nod. That simple gesture without words felt like a greeting, a recognition, a bridge between them. Leora felt a rush of warmth mixed with anxiety. She was breaking her own rules by being this close, but she could not turn away. "I've been observing," she said softly, barely above a whisper. Her voice trembled slightly, betraying her nervousness. Luke turned fully toward her, surprised but not alarmed. He sensed the care behind her words, the sincerity that came with them. "Observing?" he asked gently. I don't mind. It's good to notice things. It helps understand people and machines." She nodded, unsure how to continue. She wanted to tell him that she heard his first whisper, that it had changed everything for her. But saying it aloud felt risky. She feared his reaction, feared misunderstanding, feared judgment from others. Instead, she said, "Humans are different." I think I understand something now." Luke smiled, though a little awkwardly. "Different can be good. We try to care even if it's not perfect. We make mistakes, but we try." She studied him, noticing the honesty in his voice, the lack of pretense. She realized that humans acted on emotion, not rules. They could fail, but they could also succeed in ways her people never could. The thought excited her, filled her with hope, and scared her all at once. Over the next few days, she began experimenting with small interactions. She brought him small items from her world, quietly left them where he could find them, and observed his reactions. He accepted each item with care and gratitude, never mocking or questioning, always respectful. Each interaction, though simple, strengthened a bond that neither fully understood yet. She realized that trust could be built quietly, through actions, attention, and honesty. One evening, during a quiet moment when the station's lights dimmed, Luke found her sitting alone near a window. She was gazing at the planet below, her hands folded neatly in her lap. He approached slowly, not wanting to startle her. "Hello," he said softly. "I thought I'd check if you're okay." She turned her head slightly, studying him. "I am learning," she replied. Her voice was calm but carried meaning. "Learning about humans and about you." Luke blinked, a mix of surprise and curiosity on his face. "About me?" he asked gently. She nodded. "Your words, your actions, they matter. I never thought this was possible. Humans, they are different from what I expected." He smiled, understanding more than she expected. "Humans can be strange, yes. We can be loud, clumsy, and impatient. But we also care. We try to understand and help. That is who we are, at least some of us." She considered his words carefully. She realized she had begun to feel something new, something that her society would not have taught her to value. It was admiration, respect, and perhaps even affection. She was learning to trust her own feelings, and that was both frightening and liberating. Luke noticed her thoughtful expression and added, "You don't have to understand everything at once. We can figure it out together if you want." Her heart reacted in a way she did not fully understand. The idea of figuring things out together, of sharing understanding and experience, was foreign but compelling. She nodded slowly. "Together, yes," she whispered. And in that quiet moment, on the edge of a blue planet, two beings from very different worlds began to bridge the distance between them. One had spoken honestly without thinking of consequences, and the other had listened carefully, learning the value of emotion, trust, and choice. The bond was fragile but real. It was the first step toward something neither had expected, yet both could feel growing stronger with every passing day. Leora continued to watch Luke and learn from him, and Luke, in turn, began to notice her more fully, appreciating the quiet courage and intelligence behind her calm demeanor. They communicated in gestures, small gifts, and shared moments of silence. It was slow, delicate, and careful, but it carried more meaning than many words could. Over time, Leora began to question her own society's rules. She had been taught that emotion was dangerous, that admiration and affection could cloud judgment, and that humans were reckless and unreliable. Yet through Luke, she had discovered that emotion could be strength, that admiration could be pure, and that humans could act with courage and honesty. She realized that perhaps her society had been wrong to suppress what made individuals unique and capable. She did not speak of these thoughts to anyone else. They were private, dangerous, and powerful. She only allowed herself to feel them when she was alone with Luke, observing him, learning from him, and quietly letting herself hope. Luke, for his part, continued his gentle interactions, unaware of the full extent of her feelings. He felt a connection, yes, but it was quiet, subtle, and built on trust. He admired her courage, her patience, and the way she noticed things others missed. He did not yet understand the depth of what her first whisper had created, but he sensed that something extraordinary was beginning. And so, the days passed with quiet observation, small gestures, and unspoken understanding. A human and an alien learning from each other, bridging worlds with curiosity, trust, and the beginnings of something deeper. Leora had begun to see that humans were not just reckless, emotional beings. They were capable of choice, care, and courage. And Luke had begun to notice that she, though quiet and gentle, carried strength and intelligence that demanded respect. Their bond was growing, slowly and quietly, like a seed pushing through the soil towards sunlight. Neither knew exactly where it would lead, but both could feel that something extraordinary had begun. A connection that could change not only their lives but perhaps the perceptions of two very different worlds. The council chamber was quiet at first, a long hall filled with delegates from different alien species. The walls glowed with soft light, and the central table reflected every movement. Leora walked in carefully, her steps measured and calm. She had been summoned to speak about humans, a topic that many of her people considered frivolous or dangerous. Whispers followed her as she entered, some mocking, some curious, and some clearly disapproving. She knew what would happen. Aliens would question her, challenge her, and try to make her feel foolish. But she had made a decision. The memory of Luke's whisper, the way he had spoken honestly without fear, and the quiet courage she had seen in him gave her strength. She would speak, not for herself alone, but for the truth she had discovered about humans. The head of the council, an imposing alien named Thalrin, a tall figure with sharp features and silvery skin, spoke first. His voice echoed through the chamber. "Leora of the Thalira people," he said, "you have spoken of humans. Your admiration for them has been noted. Explain to this council why we should consider them trustworthy. Why should we believe they are capable of loyalty, courage, and honor?" Other delegates murmured. Some laughed quietly, clearly doubting her. One alien, a large creature with scaled skin, hissed softly. "Humans are weak, reckless, and emotional. Why would any of us trust them? They are barely intelligent enough to survive on their own worlds, let alone form bonds with a serious species like ours." Leora took a deep breath. She remembered Luke's words, the quiet strength behind his voice, and the way he treated everyone with respect. She did not let fear show on her face. "Humans are different from what you think," she said softly but clearly. "They act not only with reason but with care. They form bonds based on respect and choice. I have seen it firsthand. I have watched one human, Luke Carter, act with honesty and courage, even when others mocked him. His actions prove that humans are capable of loyalty, care, and true connection." Some aliens snorted in disbelief. A thin, gray alien with long fingers leaned forward. "And how can we trust what you say? Admiration can be blind. Love can cloud judgment. Why would you risk the Council's work based on what a human says or does?" Leora's chest tightened. This was exactly what she had feared, but she knew she could not falter. She took a moment, then spoke again. "I am not speaking of love as weakness. I am speaking of truth. Humans, like Luke, act with honesty, courage, and thoughtfulness. I have observed him save others, help those in need, and act without expectation of reward. These actions are proof of his nature. I believe that humans can form bonds that are strong, reliable, and meaningful." The chamber fell silent. The delegates were not used to hearing such defense of humans, especially from one of their own. Some whispered among themselves, questioning quietly. Others remained openly skeptical. One of the larger alien delegates, a species known for its rigid traditions, stood. "You claim humans are capable of loyalty and honor. Words are easy, prove it. Bring the human here. Let him demonstrate what he can do. Until we see action, we will not be persuaded by your claims." Leora's heart beat faster. She had anticipated this challenge. But she had also anticipated the solution. Luke had earned her trust through actions, not words. She knew that if he came, he would act honestly and with courage. She nodded. "He will come," she said, "and you will see." The council agreed, and Luke was summoned. He arrived later, walking into the chamber with his usual calm, careful demeanor. He did not speak at first, simply observing the room. The alien delegates stared, some openly mocking, some curious, and some clearly wary. Luke's presence alone seemed to shift the energy slightly. His quiet confidence and attentive gaze made the hall feel less tense. The largest alien delegate, a reptilian figure named Kren, hissed, "So this is the human. Do you expect us to believe his words carry weight? We need proof. Demonstrate why humans are worthy of trust." Luke nodded slightly. He did not speak defensively. He knew that words alone were not enough. Proof would come through action. And then, as if the station itself had chosen the moment, an alarm sounded. The outer docking bay reported a system failure. A supply shuttle was stuck, with crew members trapped inside. The council chamber erupted in noise, and many of the alien delegates panicked. They argued, shouted instructions, and debated on the best course of action. Some even suggested waiting for human specialists, doubting any immediate solution could succeed. Luke did not hesitate. He moved quickly, but carefully, toward the docking bay. He called for any available human crew members to follow, and Leora went with him. Other aliens watched in disbelief as the human acted without fear, without hesitation, and with careful precision. He assessed the situation, checked safety systems, and coordinated the rescue. Leora observed him closely. Every movement was measured, every instruction precise, but there was also care. He did not rush recklessly, nor did he panic. He made sure that the trapped crew members were calm, reassured, and protected. He worked alongside other humans, sharing tasks and responsibility, but always keeping the safety of everyone first. The alien delegates, initially skeptical, began to watch in silence. Luke's actions spoke louder than any words. He risked his own safety to ensure the trapped crew members were brought out unharmed. Even the largest alien, Kren, could not deny the effectiveness and bravery he demonstrated. After several tense minutes, the trapped crew was freed. No one was hurt. The room filled with quiet murmurs, and some delegates exchanged looks of surprise. They had doubted humans, mocked them, and assumed weakness. Now they had seen firsthand the courage, thoughtfulness, and loyalty that Luke embodied. Leora stepped forward. "This is what I mean," she said softly, though clearly enough for others to hear. "Humans act with care, courage, and honesty. They can form bonds that are reliable and strong. Luke has proven this not with words but with action." Kren stared at her, then at Luke. He hissed, but there was no anger in his eyes, only reconsideration. "Perhaps humans are more capable than we believed," he said slowly. Action speaks louder than speculation. Other delegates nodded, some silently, some aloud. Whispers of approval began to spread. The council, which had been skeptical and mocking, now regarded Luke with respect. His quiet courage had shifted perceptions in ways that words could never have achieved. Luke, breathing lightly but composed, turned to Leora. She nodded back at him, a quiet signal of shared understanding. She felt pride, gratitude, and a growing affection that she had not anticipated. He had not acted for recognition, reward, or fear. He had acted because it was right, because he cared, and because he valued life and trust. The council meeting resumed after the rescue, but the tone had changed. Aliens who had mocked her or doubted humans now watched more carefully. Leora spoke again, explaining the qualities she had observed in humans and in Luke personally. Her voice was steady, her arguments clear, and her sincerity undeniable. She cited the rescue, his careful actions, and the quiet strength she had witnessed daily. The council listened. Luke did not speak much. He did not need to. His actions had already proven the points. When he did speak, it was calm, measured, and respectful. He acknowledged the rescue, ensured that all the alien delegates and crew were safe, and offered guidance for better safety systems in the future. His focus was on solutions and understanding, not recognition. By the end of the day, the council reached a tentative conclusion. Humans were not reckless, nor were they unreliable. They could act with courage, honesty, and care. Their emotional nature, once considered a weakness, was now seen as a potential strength when paired with careful thought and discipline. Luke had not only proved his own character, but he had also represented humanity in a way that began to shift interspecies perceptions. Leora watched him quietly. She realized that she had been right to trust her instincts. She had heard his whisper, observed him closely, and now she saw the power of honesty, courage, and care. She felt a quiet bond growing, a connection that neither she nor Luke could fully name yet, but both could sense. That evening, after the council had adjourned, Luke returned to the observation deck. Leora followed at a distance as always, but this time she felt less fear. She approached him slowly. You were remarkable today," she said softly. He gave a small, modest smile. "I just did what anyone should do. Everyone's safety matters." "But you acted with care even for those who doubted you," she said. "You risked yourself. You were honest and brave. Humans are not what I expected. You are different." Luke looked at her, sensing the weight of her words. "Thank you," he said quietly. "That means a lot. I appreciate you noticing. It's important to me." They sat together in silence, the hum of the station filling the quiet space. She studied him, realizing more fully the qualities that had drawn her in. She had begun to understand that humans, despite their unpredictability, carried a strength rooted in honesty and choice. And she realized that her admiration, her growing trust, and the feelings she could not yet name were real and valuable. And so, after mockery, challenge, and the proving of courage, a new understanding had begun. Humans were no longer dismissed by the council. Luke had demonstrated the power of honest action, and Leora had shown the courage to speak for what she believed. Their bond, though unspoken in many ways, had strengthened. It was the start of a new chapter, not just for them, but for how two very different species could see each other. Not as rivals, but as beings capable of trust, courage, and connection. The station was quiet that morning, but the calm did not last. A sudden alarm rang out through the corridors, a sharp, urgent sound that echoed off the metal walls. Luke Carter was already on his rounds when the first warning came. Systems in one section of the station were failing, threatening the life support of several areas. Lights flickered, and the hum of the station changed to a low, uneasy vibration. Humans and aliens alike froze for a moment, uncertain of the cause or the danger. Leora, who had been observing quietly from a corner, felt a surge of concern. The sound of the alarm sent a chill through her. She had never experienced fear in such a chaotic way before. Her people were trained to stay calm and act logically, but emotion was always controlled, measured. She realized she could not control the panic rising in her chest. She knew instinctively that Luke would act, and that he could save them if she trusted him. Luke moved quickly but not recklessly. He assessed the situation calmly, calling for any available crew to assist. Humans began moving through the corridors, coordinating with alien crews where possible. Panic was present, yes, but Luke's presence brought focus. He gave clear instructions, checking the status of life support systems, pressure zones, and access points. Each decision was precise, yet thoughtful. He did not leave anyone behind, and he made sure that even the smallest crew members felt safe and guided. Leora followed him, trying to stay close without being in the way. She could see how he spoke to everyone, giving instructions without condescension, helping without patronizing. Even when some alien crew members hesitated or argued, Luke remained patient, listening first, then acting. She noticed how humans worked together, relying on trust and quick thinking rather than rigid rules or hierarchy. It was different from her people's way of dealing with crises, but she could see its power. The first challenge came at the docking bay. A supply module had become stuck in the outer airlock, and the emergency systems were failing. The module contained several essential components, and the lives of crew members depended on retrieving them. Aliens around the bay argued loudly, some saying it was too dangerous, others doubting human capability. Luke stepped forward, carefully analyzing the situation. He checked the controls, the structural integrity, and the oxygen flow. He calculated risks in his mind while keeping calm, a rare combination of thought and instinct. "We can get it out safely," he said. His voice carried calm authority, not arrogance. "I'll go first with the safety tether. Follow my instructions exactly and we'll bring it back intact." A few humans moved quickly to assist. Some alien crew members hesitated, glancing at each other nervously. Leora took a deep breath, deciding she would act as well. She moved closer to observe, ready to help if needed. Watching Luke gave her courage. She realized that trust was contagious. Luke's first step was into the airlock, tethered carefully to secure points. He moved slowly, checking each connection, adjusting as necessary. A small failure in the docking mechanism made the module shift unexpectedly. Some alien crew members gasped, stepping back, but Luke reacted immediately. He stabilized the module, securing it to the tether, and continued his careful maneuvering. Each action was precise, deliberate, and safe. Leora felt her heart pounding. The sight of him risking his safety to protect others, acting without fear or selfishness, was powerful. She could see why her feelings had grown beyond curiosity. Admiration had become respect, and respect was deepening into something more. She realized that courage was not just in strength or violence, but in careful, honest action under pressure. After tense moments, the module was secured and moved safely back into the docking bay. Luke checked each system again, ensuring that no one had been hurt, that air pressure was stable, and that the station remained secure. Alien crew members who had doubted him now watched in awe. Some whispered to each other, questioning their earlier beliefs. A few even bowed slightly, an alien gesture of respect. But the crisis was not over. The system failure had affected multiple sections. Corridors flooded with smoke from overheating circuits, minor fires broke out, and communication lines faltered. Panic started to rise again. Luke did not hesitate. He organized teams to put out fires, repair circuits, and ensure the safety of every crew member. He moved through smoke-filled corridors, guiding those who were frightened, helping those who were injured, and checking systems at every turn. Leora followed as closely as she could, noticing how he balanced risk with care. When an alien crew member tripped and fell, Luke stopped to help, even as alarms blared around them. He guided the alien to safety, reassured them with calm words, and continued his work. Leora was struck by the quiet consistency of his courage. He did not act for recognition, did not seek praise. He acted because it was right, and because he valued life. As the hours passed, the worst of the crisis began to subside. Fires were extinguished, circuits repaired, and the station slowly returned to stability. Humans and aliens alike were exhausted, but alive. The council, who had observed from a safe distance, now looked at Luke with new understanding. Their earlier skepticism had been replaced by respect, their mockery by admiration. Leora approached him once the immediate danger had passed. You saved everyone," she said softly, her voice carrying awe and gratitude. He shook his head modestly. "We saved everyone," he replied. "I just helped organize. Everyone else did their part. It was teamwork." She studied him closely, realizing that even in modesty he carried courage and honesty. She felt a deep admiration, mixed with something stronger she could not yet name. She realized that humans could be trusted, not because they were fearless, but because they acted with thought, care, and honesty even when afraid. The council gathered afterward to discuss what had happened. The alien delegates who had doubted humans or mocked them earlier now spoke cautiously. They acknowledged that humans, led by Luke, had shown courage, intelligence, and loyalty. The rescue and crisis management proved that humans could act reliably and honorably, even under extreme pressure. The perception of humanity shifted in the eyes of many, and Leora's choice to defend them gained new weight. Later in the observation deck, Luke sat quietly checking logs and ensuring systems were stable. Leora approached him, carrying a small object she had retrieved during the chaos. It was a crystal from her world, glowing faintly. She handed it to him. "For you," she said softly. "To remember this day and everything you did." He accepted it carefully, turning it in his hands. "Thank you," he said. "I don't know what to say. It's beautiful." She looked at him, her large eyes reflecting the soft light of the planet below. "Your actions, they mattered. More than words. You showed me and everyone else what humans are capable of." He nodded, humbled. "We try. That's all anyone can do." She felt a surge of warmth, a quiet bond strengthening between them. She realized that admiration had grown into trust, and trust had begun to grow into something more. She did not speak the words yet, but her feelings were clear in her eyes and actions. Over the next days, the station slowly returned to normal. Systems were checked again, repairs completed, and routine resumed. But the impact of the crisis remained. Aliens who had doubted humans now regarded them differently. Humans were no longer seen as reckless or unreliable. Luke had proven that courage was not just strength, but thoughtfulness combined with honesty and care. Leora and Luke continued their quiet interactions. Small gestures, shared moments, and silent understanding deepened their connection. She observed him more closely than ever, noticing the subtleties of his actions, the care he showed to all around him, and the quiet strength in his demeanor. She realized that the bond forming between them was more than admiration or trust. It was understanding, respect, and the beginning of genuine affection. She had learned that emotions could be strength, that honesty could inspire, and that courage could be quiet and deliberate. And Luke, though modest and careful, began to sense the depth of her feelings. He noticed the way she watched him, the small gifts she left, the quiet encouragement she offered. He realized that trust and admiration could grow silently, like seeds planted in fertile ground, growing slowly but steadily into something strong. By the end of the week, both of them understood that their connection had changed not only their personal lives, but also the perception of their species. Humans had proven their worth, and Leora had shown the courage to trust and support someone from a different world. The bond between them, fragile but real, had been tested and strengthened. They sat together one evening on the observation deck, looking out at the blue planet below. The station hummed quietly around them. She handed him a small crystal shard, a token of trust, gratitude, and growing affection. He accepted it, turning it carefully in his hands. "This is for trust," she said softly, "and for what you showed everyone and me." He nodded, humbled. "I'll keep it safe," he replied. "Just like I'll keep trying to do what's right." They did not speak much after that. Words were unnecessary. The bond between them, built on trust, courage, and quiet understanding, was strong enough on its own. And both of them knew that the future held new challenges, but together they could face them. And so, after danger, panic, and the proving of humanity's courage, the bond between Luke and Leora grew stronger. She had seen the truth of his character, and he had inspired trust and respect in ways that words alone could never achieve. Their connection, quiet but deep, had begun to shape not only their lives but the perception of two very different species. The station was quiet that morning, but a different kind of quiet. The systems hummed smoothly, life support was stable, and the crews had returned to their routines. Yet beneath the calm, something significant was about to happen. Leora had made a decision, one that she had thought about for many days. She had observed Luke, learned about humans, and seen the truth of his character. She could no longer ignore what she felt. It was time to act. She walked slowly to the observation deck, the place where she and Luke had first shared quiet moments. The blue planet below glowed softly, reflecting on the glass walls. Luke was already there, checking the system logs for the day. He glanced up when he heard her approach, offering a small, gentle smile. "Good morning," he said quietly. "Everything looks stable." She nodded but did not speak immediately. She held in her hands a small crystal shard, the same kind she had given him before. This time it carried more meaning. It was not just a gift. It was a symbol of choice, trust, and something deeper that she had grown to feel. "Luke," she began softly, I have something to tell you, something important." He tilted his head, attentive, sensing the weight of her words. "What is it?" he asked, his voice calm but curious. She took a deep breath, steadying herself. "From the first moment I heard your whisper, the one where you said I was beautiful and wondered if I might marry you, I felt something. It was strange, unfamiliar, and forbidden according to my people, but it was real, and it has not gone away." Luke's eyes widened slightly, but he remained quiet, letting her continue. "I have watched you, learned from you, and seen how humans act. I have seen your honesty, your courage, your care for others. And I trust you. I trust you more than anyone I have ever known. And I want to be with you. I choose you, Luke, not because it is required, not because of duty, but because I want to. I want to bond with you." Luke felt his chest tighten. He had not expected words like these, though he had sensed her growing feelings. He carefully took the crystal from her hands, holding it gently. "Leora, I don't know what to say. I feel the same. I have admired you from the start, and I want to be with you too. If you choose me, I will honor that trust always." Her eyes filled with emotion, and for a moment they simply looked at each other. The bond they had been forming, quietly and steadily, was now acknowledged openly. It was a connection built on trust, respect, admiration, and care, a bond neither human nor alien could ignore. News of their decision spread quietly through the station. Some aliens whispered in surprise, others observed in curiosity, but most remained cautious. The council was called to meet again, this time to witness the public acknowledgement of the bond between human and alien. Leora and Luke entered the chamber together, side by side. The alien delegates looked at them with a mix of skepticism, awe, and interest. "We are here to witness a choice," Leora said, her voice steady. "A choice based on trust, understanding, and care. Luke Carter and I have chosen to bond, not because of obligation, not because of tradition, but because we respect and care for each other. Our bond is real, honest, and voluntary." The council chamber fell silent. Delegates exchanged glances, some clearly challenged by this declaration. One of the more traditional aliens, Kren, leaned forward and hissed quietly, "This is unprecedented. To bond openly with a human against custom, yet their actions speak truth." Another delegate, a gray-skinned alien with long limbs, nodded slowly. "We have seen humanity in action. Their courage, honesty, and care cannot be ignored. If this bond is genuine, it may change our understanding of interspecies relationships." Luke spoke then, his voice calm but confident. "I do not act for reward, recognition, or approval. I act because it is right. I care for Leora and I respect her. Our bond is built on trust, honesty, and choice. I will honor it fully, as I would any promise or responsibility." The words hung in the chamber. Some delegates who had once mocked or doubted humans now considered their actions carefully. The crisis they had faced days ago, combined with this declaration, had shown them that humans could act with courage, honesty, and integrity, even under extreme pressure. After discussion and careful deliberation, the council offered their recognition. They did not fully understand the emotions that guided humans, but they acknowledged the bond as real, voluntary, and honorable. Some aliens even began to question their own traditions, wondering if emotion and trust could be a strength rather than a weakness. Leora felt relief and pride. Her choice and Luke's response had not only solidified their bond but had begun to challenge centuries of rigid belief. She realized that humans, through honesty and action, could inspire change in others. And she realized that she had chosen wisely, not just for herself, but for a future where understanding between species could grow. In the following days, life on the station returned to a quiet routine, but something had changed. Humans were no longer seen as reckless or weak. Luke's calm courage and honest actions had earned respect across multiple species. Leora, too, was recognized for her courage in speaking the truth and choosing trust over tradition. Together, they became an example of what honesty, care, and emotion could accomplish. They spent quiet moments together, sharing simple activities. They walked along observation corridors, watched the planet below, and exchanged stories about their worlds. Every interaction, every glance, every small gesture strengthened their connection. It was not dramatic or flashy, but it was real, deep, and enduring. One afternoon, Leora brought Luke to a quiet section of the station that overlooked a distant nebula. The colors swirled in purple and gold, reflecting in their eyes. She handed him a small pendant, carved from crystal from her home world. "This is for you," she said softly, "to remember that we chose each other, and that trust and care can be stronger than fear or mockery." He accepted it carefully, holding it in his hand. "I will keep it always," he said. "It will remind me of what is right and of what matters." They watched the nebula in silence, feeling a quiet joy in the simplicity of the moment. The world beyond the station, the planets, and the stars seemed distant. What mattered was here together, grounded in trust, honesty, and the bond they had built. The alien crews and humans who observed them began to see the power of such bonds. Quiet gestures, honesty, and respect could bridge worlds. The lessons of courage, care, and emotional honesty began to spread subtly. Even those who had doubted humans now reconsidered their beliefs, realizing that strength could take many forms. Leora and Luke continued their lives on the station, facing daily challenges together. They repaired systems, helped crews, and learned from one another. Their bond was tested in small ways in the maintenance of routines, in the care of life support systems, and in the management of alien relations. Every challenge strengthened their connection, proving that true bonds were built on understanding and choice. They also shared moments of quiet intimacy. Sometimes they would sit on the observation deck, hands brushing lightly, watching the planet below. Sometimes they would exchange small gifts, simple tokens of appreciation and recognition. These small acts became their way of speaking love, respect, and trust in a language both understood. One evening, the station held a celebration for the successful resolution of the recent crisis. Delegates from multiple species attended, including those who had once doubted humans. Speeches were given, systems were praised, and the station's efforts were acknowledged. When Luke and Leora appeared together, side by side, the room fell silent. The significance of their bond was clear to everyone present. Humans and aliens alike understood that something remarkable had been achieved, a connection built on trust, courage, and honesty, crossing boundaries that had once seemed unbridgeable. After the celebration, Leora and Luke returned to the observation deck. She leaned slightly against him and he placed a hand gently on hers. They did not speak immediately. The hum of the station, the light of the planet below, and the quiet understanding between them were enough. "We made it," Leora whispered. "Not just us, but everything we've shown them," Luke nodded. "We did, together, and we'll keep going no matter what comes next." They sat quietly, watching the stars and the planet, knowing that the future held challenges. But they also knew that honesty, courage, and care could overcome doubt and fear. Their bond, acknowledged by multiple species, symbolized something greater than themselves: the power of trust, the value of choice, and the strength of honest emotion. In the months that followed, Luke and Leora's relationship became a quiet example for the station. Humans were no longer dismissed. Aliens began to consider the importance of choice and care, and the lessons of the recent crises were remembered as proof that courage and honesty could create real change. Leora often reflected on the first moment she had heard Luke's whisper. A simple, soft statement of admiration, spoken without expectation or fear, had started everything. It had grown into trust, respect, and ultimately love. She realized that humans, with their honesty and courage, could inspire change, and that emotion could be a strength rather than a weakness. Luke, in turn, thought of the quiet courage she had shown. Her ability to speak truth despite fear, to act on trust, and to choose freely had changed his life. Together, they had bridged worlds, proven humanity's worth, and forged a bond that could endure challenges. And so, on a quiet station orbiting a blue planet, a human and an alien sat together, hands intertwined, hearts aligned, and trust unbroken. The galaxy beyond was vast and uncertain, but they knew that honesty, care, and courage would guide them forward. They had chosen each other freely, and in that choice lay the true power of humanity. Their story, whispered quietly among the stars, was proof that one small act of honesty could ripple across worlds, change perceptions, and create bonds stronger than fear or tradition. It was proof that humans, with their hearts open and their actions guided by care, could inspire hope, courage, and trust in the most unexpected places. And in that quiet glow of the planet and station, Luke and Leora smiled at each other, knowing that they had not only found each other but had also shown the universe the power of human honesty, emotion, and courage.